Hello, my name is Adil Jones. I work as the project manager for the Llyn Partnership. So we've been working with PONT the last 10 years on numerous environmental projects on the Llyn Peninsula. Been very lucky to have the help of the PONT team to deliver different elements of different projects. Hilary Kehoe has been working on the HLF project as a local contact for us, liaising with farmers and managing contracts. Jan's ecological and practical experience is invaluable, and obviously Hilary brings a farming perspective to any input to the projects. The way things are developing with environmental work, I think having a bolt-on service that you can trust is really important, and having delivery specialists that really understand what's going on in that locality allows you to hit the ground running, and you also have a working relationship with the land managers and the farmers who you're dealing with, so that's really, really important.
I'm Jo. I've lived and worked on Anglesey for 11 years.
After 10 years of ecological monitoring, the results were showing that there was a decrease in the condition of the lowland heath on the mountain, and that the cattle actually were not achieving the goals that they were there for at a time of year that was quite isolating. So we were looking at options both that would be good ecologically, aesthetically, and a sustainable system for people living on Anglesey in the future. So we went to PONT for advice. The obstacles that we had were water provision, and also transporting the cattle on and off the island. So with PONT's help, we looked at how we could overcome those obstacles, and went for a water storage system, both at the north and the south ends of the island, that could be pumped up to a head of tank away from the public, and water troughs that the cattle could access out of sight in two different places on the mountain. First trial year, there have been some really positive results. The bracken is a lot more broken up. The dense canopies have got a maze of cattle paths through them. You can see the broken bracken rhizomes. The lowland fields that are not that are cut for silage anymore, so there's not that monoculture of hay meadows, has become a permanent pasture system, and seems to have a lot more of a mosaic and diversity of structure and species, which is good for pollinators. There are potential positive knock-on effects for the chough that feed on the short turf, but also like a diversity of structural vegetation. In conclusion, the whole shift has been down to PONT. I don't think we could have done it without them, and they're incredibly helpful. And we will watch and see whether this system is better for Anglesey, but the signs are that it really is a positive shift for a sustainable management system for Anglesey.
And this is Frida Wynne, who's a local resident, and she's been really instrumental in getting the reserve designated as a SSSI and in helping us to manage it and work with the local people.
We come round, we check the fences, we check the gates, we check the water supplies, we walk around the animals and check that they individually are looking all right, no problems with them. And if there are, we report. Or if we have any worries, we report back to Andy Kehoe or maybe Hilary. The animals are very good. They don't eat everything down to exactly the same level, so there's a variety, a mosaic of habitats within the grass, if you like, and there's plenty of room for the fungi to grow and to produce their spore heads, as the mushrooms and toadstools. And there are now a lot of very small spring flowers. They come in huge patches of blues and yellows and a few other colours sometimes. And there's room for the orchids as well to grow. There's any field that the animals are in, before, as you go into it, there's a notice like this, which as you can see says, do not feed or approach the cattle and keep dogs on the short lead. What they are supposed to do is keep the dogs under full control. They don't actually have to have them on the lead, but they must be under full control. At the main entrances to the reserve, all of them, there are many of them all around, there are notices which are maps of the reserve with the paths marked and a notice to where the cattle are. We have little icons we have of cattle in the fields where the cattle are. Hand out, there's a nature reserve leaflet which does have a map of the reserve with some information on it and all sorts of other information, and there's one written by Hilary some years back about what's going on in the meadows with reference to the animals, and so there are pictures of some of the fungi as well.
Training for some of our volunteers and staff in terms of looking after stock. So there's been 3 or 4 lookers courses over the years, and they've mainly been working at Eithinog, which is a suburban site in Bangor, where there's a lot of visitors, a lot of dog walkers and people on the site. So it's really important that we're keeping a close eye on the cattle, and just having people on site able to explain what we're doing there and why we're doing it. That's really valuable. But also the sort of informal training that staff sometimes needs to provide a bit of backup to their conservation knowledge in terms of the practicalities of grazing stock and implications for access and infrastructure. So that's all really valuable support. That's really valuable because it's not just our sites that are benefiting from there. PONT is able to bring their experience across the whole of Wales to help us engage with the local people and the users on the site. So whether it's Marion Durras, which is an area of common land, and again there are lots of dog walkers there, or Eithinog near Bangor, there's lots of dog walkers. So Eithinog is our only nature reserve where we've had a dog show, and we had 2 of them in 2 successive years, which went down quite well. So we got a very different audience along to our nature reserve, and we were able to explain to them about what we were doing, but also just to get them with their animals out there and enjoy the site. But I think sometimes there are unexpected benefits as well. And I remember we had a wetland festival in Anglesey, and PONT and Hilary were there with some cattle. We were just sort of showing them off really, and Hilary got talking to somebody, a lady who was really, really nervous around cattle. And with Hilary there and Hilary talking to her, she was able to go into the field, and it was a major achievement for her. Do you remember that? One of the biggest sites where we've been working with PONT over the years is of course Welsh in Anglesey. It's an internationally important site, big wetland, but surrounded by a load of other different habitats. So it's quite a complex site for grazing. So we've been able to talk to Hilary and to PONT about sort of how we get the grazing right, and sort of varying the grazing regimes and responding to the sort of the different environmental conditions from year to year is really helpful and valuable to us, and the expertise that they can bring to helping us manage the site is really welcome.